The voice on the phone sounded exactly like my grandson Tyler. Every crack, every nervous laugh, even the way he says, "Grandma Rose," when he's in trouble. But Tyler was sitting safely in his dorm room 200 miles away, and I was about to teach these scammers that this 72-year-old retired teacher doesn't go down without a fight. My name is Rose Patterson, and for 43 years, I taught 5th grade in the same small Pennsylvania town where I raised 3 children and buried my husband of 51 years. I'm not naive. I've seen every excuse, every manipulation tactic, every sob story you can imagine from decades of dealing with children and their parents. Tyler is my youngest daughter, Sarah's boy, 20 years old and a junior at Penn State. He calls me every Sunday without fail, just like I taught all my grandchildren. "Family first, Grandma Rose," he always says, mimicking the motto I drilled into them since they were knee-high. I live alone now in the same house where I raised my family, with my late husband's woodworking tools still hanging in the garage and photo albums covering every surface. My children worry I'm too trusting, too willing to help others. They don't understand that teaching children for 4 decades doesn't make you gullible. It makes you an expert at spotting lies. You see, I wasn't always just Grandma Rose. Before I retired, I was Mrs. Patterson, the teacher every parent requested but every misbehaving child feared. I could spot a forged parent signature from across a classroom, detect when homework was copied from a friend, and I knew every trick in the book for getting out of trouble. My late husband, George, used to joke that I had a built-in lie detector. "Rose," he'd say, "you can smell a fib from 3 counties away." He was right. After 43 years in education, I'd seen every sob story, every manipulation tactic, every attempt to pull one over on the teacher. Little did I know that all that training was preparing me for something much bigger than catching kids who hadn't done their reading assignment. I remember one particular student, Danny Morrison, who tried to convince me his dog had eaten not just his homework, but his entire backpack. When I asked to speak with his parents about getting him a new backpack, he quickly remembered where he'd left it. That was lesson number 1 in my education about lies. They always get more complicated when you ask for details. George passed away 3 years ago after a battle with cancer. During those final months, I learned another valuable lesson about human nature. How predators circle when they smell vulnerability. The phone calls started almost immediately after his obituary ran in the paper. Insurance companies wanting to help with claims, Medicare representatives offering special deals, investment advisors who could help me manage my sudden inheritance. I shut them all down with the same sharp efficiency I'd used to handle disruptive students. But those experiences taught me something important. Scammers study their targets. They know when someone might be isolated, grieving, or desperate. They wait for moments of weakness. What they didn't count on was that losing George hadn't made me weak. It had made me more protective of the family I had left. My 3 children, 7 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren. They were my world now, and nobody was going to hurt my family on my watch. Tyler holds a special place in my heart, though I'd never tell the other grandchildren that. He was the one who stayed with me during George's final weeks, taking a leave from college, to help me navigate hospital visits and insurance paperwork. He was the one who held my hand at the funeral, who helped me sort through George's belongings, who made sure I wasn't alone during those first terrible months of widowhood. "Grandma Rose," he'd said to me one evening as we sat through old photo albums. "Grandpa would want you to keep living, not just surviving." He was right, of course. That boy has always been wise beyond his years. Tyler also helped me join the modern world, setting up my social media account so I could see pictures of all my grandchildren, teaching me how to video chat so I wouldn't miss birthday parties or school plays. He was patient with my questions, never making me feel old or foolish when I accidentally posted something to the wrong place or couldn't figure out how to unmute myself on a call. The internet can be dangerous for people your age, Grandma. He'd warned me just last Christmas. There are people out there who specifically target seniors. Promise me you'll be careful about who you trust online. I'd laughed it off then, thinking my decades of dealing with difficult children had prepared me for any kind of manipulation. I never imagined that warning would prove so prophetic, or that the danger would come through my own telephone. Wearing the sound of his own voice. It was a Tuesday afternoon in March when my phone rang. The caller ID showed Tyler's name. Grandma Rose? The voice was shaking, terrified. It was unmistakably Tyler. I'd know that voice anywhere. Honey, what's wrong? I'm in trouble. Really bad trouble. I was at a party last night and someone got hurt. The police, they arrested me. And I'm scared they're going to charge me with assault. My heart dropped. Tyler had never been in serious trouble. But college kids make mistakes. The fear in his voice was so real, so raw. Where are you, sweetheart? I'm at the county jail. They let me make one phone call and I didn't want to call Mom and Dad. They'll be so disappointed. I need bail money, Grandma. $5,000. Can you help me? Please? Something nagged at me. Tyler always called me on Sundays. He'd missed last Sunday's call, claiming he was studying for midterms. But something about the timing felt off. Of course, honey. How do I get the money to you? The lawyer says you need to wire it to this account. He rattled off numbers. And, Grandma, please don't call anyone else about this. I'm so ashamed. I just need to handle this quietly. That's when I knew. My Tyler would never ask me to keep secrets from his parents. Family first. That was our rule, no matter what. But the voice, it was perfect. Every inflection, every breathing, pattern. How was this possible? The fake Tyler continued his performance, getting more desperate. Grandma, I'm really scared. The other guys in here, they're not nice. I just want to come home. Can you please wire the money? The lawyer says if I don't get bail by tonight, I'll have to stay here for weeks. I found myself actually feeling sorry for this Tyler, even though I knew it wasn't him. That's how good this technology was. It wasn't just mimicking his voice. It was capturing his emotional patterns, his vulnerability. Whoever was behind this had studied my grandson carefully enough to know exactly which heartstrings to pull. The lawyer also said you can't tell anyone about this. The voice continued. If Mom and Dad find out, it could make the charges worse. Something about prejudicing the case. You understand, right, Grandma Rose? You're the only one I can trust. Now I was getting angry. Using my grandson's voice to manipulate me was bad enough. But trying to isolate me from my family? That was crossing a line these criminals were about to regret. Okay, sweetheart, I said, keeping my voice steady. Let me ask you something. Do you remember what you got me for my birthday last month? There was a pause. I got you that nice scarf. The blue one. My birthday had been 4 months ago, and Tyler had given me a beautiful photo album filled with family pictures. Another lie, but a revealing one. They were improvising, hoping I wouldn't remember or wouldn't correct them. And do you remember what we talked about when you called me on Sunday? We talked about school and how I was worried about my grades. Tyler hadn't called last Sunday. He'd been camping with his fraternity brothers, something he'd posted about extensively on social media. But more importantly, Tyler was on the dean's list. He'd never worry about grades. "Tell me more about these charges, honey. What exactly are they accusing you of?" The fake Tyler went into more detail, describing a fight that escalated, someone getting pushed downstairs, claims of assault and battery. The story was becoming more elaborate, more dramatic. Classic manipulation technique. Pile on the details, to make the lie seem more real. "The lawyer says if I don't make bail tonight, they might add more charges. Something about leaving the scene of a crime. Grandma Rose, I'm really scared. I can't handle jail. You know how I am with confined spaces. That stopped me cold. Tyler didn't have claustrophobia, but his younger brother Marcus did, severely, ever since getting stuck in a playground tunnel as a child. These scammers had done their research, but they'd mixed up which grandson had which traits. They were good, but they weren't perfect, and every mistake was giving me more ammunition. But what really disturbed me wasn't just the lies. It was how well they understood family psychology. They knew exactly how to make me feel isolated. Don't tell anyone. Guilty. I'm so ashamed. And urgently responsible. If I don't get bail tonight. These weren't amateur criminals. This was a sophisticated psychological operation. "Grandma, are you still there?" the fake Tyler asked, and I could hear genuine worry in that cloned voice. "I'm here, sweetheart. I'm trying to process all of this. It's so much to take in." I know. And I'm sorry to put you through this. But you're the only one I can count on. The only one who's never let me down." That phrase hit me like a physical blow. Tyler had said those exact words to me during George's funeral, when he was trying to comfort me while dealing with his own grief. These people had somehow captured not just his voice, but his emotional vocabulary, his way of expressing vulnerability. For a moment, despite everything I knew, I felt myself wavering. What if I was wrong? What if this really was Tyler, and my suspicion was just paranoia? What if I hung up and he really was in trouble? That's when I understood the true evil of this. Technology. It wasn't just identity theft. It was emotional terrorism. They were weaponizing my love, turning my deepest family bonds into tools of manipulation. But that realization also crystallized my resolve. This wasn't just about protecting my money anymore. This was about protecting every grandmother, every parent, every family member who might receive a similar call. Someone had to take a stand. I stayed calm. "Of course, sweetheart. Let me just grab a pen to write down those numbers again." While he repeated the banking information, I quietly opened my laptop and searched Tyler's social media. There he was, posted 3 hours ago, studying in his dorm room, complaining about organic chemistry. My hands were trembling, but not from fear, from rage. Someone had stolen my grandson's voice. They'd taken something precious and twisted it into a weapon against his own family. I texted Tyler, "Call me now. Emergency." My phone buzzed immediately. It was Tyler, confused but very much free and unharmed. "Grandma Rose? What's wrong? I got your text." "Nothing's wrong now, sweetheart. Stay on the line." I had the fake Tyler still on my landline, my real grandson on my cell phone. The technology was incredible and terrifying. But these criminals had made one crucial mistake. They'd tried to scam a woman who'd spent decades outsmarting 5th graders. Tyler's fake voice was getting impatient. "Grandma, did you get those numbers? I really need that money today." Oh, I got them, honey. But first, tell me about your organic chemistry test. How did it go? Silence. Then, what test? The one you posted about on Instagram 3 hours ago. The line went quiet for several long seconds. When the voice came back, it dropped the Tyler imitation entirely. Listen, lady, just send the money. You don't want to know what happens to Tyler if you don't. Now they'd moved to threats. Big mistake. But I wasn't done gathering information. I needed to understand exactly how sophisticated this operation was. I'm sorry, honey. I'm just so worried about you. Can you tell me more about what happened at this party? Maybe I can help you remember details that might help your case. The fake Tyler launched into an elaborate story about a fraternity party, a fight over a girl, someone falling downstairs. The details were generic enough to be believable, but specific enough to sound real. These people were professionals. And which fraternity was this, sweetheart? I asked innocently. It was the one on Elm Street. You know, the big house? I knew Penn State's campus well. Tyler had given me tours multiple times. There was no fraternity house on Elm Street. Oh yes, I remember that house. I lied, smoothly. The one with the red door, right? Yes, exactly, the red door. I had them. They were improvising now, agreeing with whatever I said to maintain the illusion, but they'd also revealed something crucial. They didn't actually know much about Tyler's real life, beyond what they could scrape from social media. That's when I made my decision. I wasn't just going to hang up and report this to the police. I was going to turn this into a teaching moment. For them, for the authorities, and for anyone else who might face this same situation. Tyler, honey, I need to ask you one more thing before I send this money. Do you remember the secret code word we established for family emergencies? Silence. Then, code word. Yes, sweetheart. Last Christmas, when we were talking about all these phone scams targeting seniors, you suggested we should have a family code word, just in case someone ever tried to impersonate one of you kids. Do you remember what word we chose? More silence. I could practically hear them scrambling. I don't... Grandma, I'm really stressed right now. Can you just remind me? Of course, honey. The word is pineapple. Now, can you say it back to me so I know you remember? Pineapple, the fake Tyler repeated dutifully. Perfect. We'd never established any code word. But now I had them on record confirming a fabricated detail. Any decent fraud investigator would see right through this. I kept the real Tyler on the line through my cell phone, updating him in whispered conversations every few minutes. He was fascinated and horrified by how accurate the voice clone was, but also proud of how his grandmother was handling the situation. Should I call Mom and Dad? He asked during one of our quick check-ins. Not yet, I whispered back. I want to see how far these people will go, and I want the police to get everything they need to shut down this operation. Officer Martinez had arrived with Detective Sarah Chen, a specialist in cybercrime and elder fraud. They'd set up recording equipment and were coaching me through hand signals on how to keep the scammers talking while gathering evidence. Mrs. Patterson, Detective Chen whispered during a break when I'd put the scammers on hold. You're doing incredible work here. Most victims either hang up immediately or send the money. You're helping us document their entire playbook. The scammers were getting more sophisticated, too. They'd brought in what sounded like a lawyer. Another voice claiming to represent Tyler, with legal-sounding jargon and urgent deadlines. Then a bail bondsman who could expedite the process if I acted quickly. Ma'am, I understand this is stressful, the fake lawyer said. But the window for helping your grandson is closing rapidly. The prosecutor is pushing for additional charges, And if we don't secure bail within the next hour, Tyler could be looking at weeks in county lockup. I could see Detective Chen taking notes, documenting every aspect of their operation. They weren't just trying to scam me. They were running a full theatrical production, complete with multiple characters and escalating urgency. "Can I speak to Tyler again?" I asked. "I just need to hear his voice one more time before I send this money." When the fake Tyler came back on the line, I was ready with more questions. "Honey, I've been thinking about what you said earlier, about being scared of confined spaces. When did that start? I don't remember you having that problem as a child." There was a long pause. It started in high school, after that incident at the swimming pool." Wrong again. There had never been any swimming pool incident, and Tyler had never been afraid of confined spaces. That was his brother Marcus, and it started with a playground tunnel, not a swimming pool. Each lie was like a thread I could pull, unraveling their carefully constructed deception. "Actually," I said, switching to my teacher voice, the one that could silence a cafeteria full of sugar-high kids, "you're going to stay on this line while I waste as much of your time as you just wasted of mine." I'd already called the police on Tyler's phone. They were tracing the call and had connected me with their fraud division. Officer Martinez was listening in, recording everything. "I know exactly what you're doing," I continued. "You've cloned my grandson's voice using AI technology, probably from his social media videos. You've studied his family relationships enough to know I might be an easy target. But here's what you didn't study. I'm not just Tyler's grandmother. I'm Rose Patterson, and I've been dealing with liars, bullies, and manipulators since before you were born." I could hear them whispering in the background, probably debating whether to hang up. "Don't you dare hang up on me, young man. I'm not finished." To my surprise, they stayed on the line. Maybe it was shock, maybe curiosity. "You want to know what it's like to be scammed? To have someone you trust betray you? Well, congratulations. You're about to find out." For the next 47 minutes, I kept them talking. I pretended to be confused about online banking. I claimed I needed to drive to 3 different banks. I made up stories about my husband's secret accounts that required special passwords. I even put them on hold to take another call from Tyler's lawyer, all while Officer Martinez and his team traced their location and gathered evidence. The scammers grew increasingly frustrated, but they couldn't hang up. They were too invested in getting that $5,000. Classic sunk cost fallacy, something I'd seen in parent-teacher conferences for decades. At one point, I could hear them arguing in the background. "This old lady is wasting our time," one voice said. "Should we move on to the next mark?" "No," came the reply. "She's this close to sending the money. $5,000 is worth the wait." I smiled. They had no idea I was recording everything, that police were triangulating their location, that their entire operation was about to come crashing down. "I'm sorry this is taking so long, Tyler," I said sweetly into the phone. "You know how Grandma is with technology, but I'm almost ready to send that money. Just need to verify one more account number." The patience in my voice was real. I had all day, but their patience was wearing thin, and that's when criminals make mistakes. "Look, just send the damn money already," the fake Tyler finally snapped, dropping the vulnerable grandson act entirely. "Language, young man," I said sharply. The Tyler I know would never speak to his grandmother that way. The line went quiet. They realized their mistake, but it was too late. Officer Martinez gave me a thumbs up. They had everything they needed. But I wasn't finished. These people had put me through emotional torture, had tried to use my love for my grandson as a weapon against me. They deserved to understand exactly how that felt. "You know what the most disgusting part of this is?" I said, my teacher voice cutting through any pretense of politeness. "You didn't just steal money. You stole something much more precious. You stole a grandmother's trust. You took the sound of my grandson's voice, something that brings me joy every time I hear it, and you turned it into an instrument of fear." I could hear multiple voices arguing in the background now. Their operation was falling apart. And the worst part is, you probably have grandmothers too. You probably have people who love you, who would do anything to help you, if you were really in trouble. But instead of honoring that kind of love, you've chosen to exploit it in others. "Lady, I'm not finished," I snapped. "Do you have any idea what you put me through? For those first few minutes, I genuinely believed my grandson was in jail, scared and alone. I was ready to empty my savings account, to drive across the state, to do whatever it took to help him. That's what grandmothers do. We don't hesitate. We don't ask questions. We just act when our families need us. And you use that against me." The fake Tyler voice was completely gone now. I was talking to the real criminals. "You picked the wrong target today. I'm not just some lonely old woman you can manipulate. I'm a retired teacher with 4 decades of experience dealing with liars, bullies, and manipulators. And now, thanks to you, I'm also a witness in a federal fraud investigation." The line went dead silent. I could hear them whispering frantically. In the background, probably debating whether to hang up or try to salvage the situation. "You still there?" I asked sweetly. "Because I have so much more to say." A new voice came on the line. Older, more authoritative. Probably their supervisor. "Look, lady, you're making a big mistake. We know where you live. We know about your family. You better send that money, or..." "Or what?" I interrupted. "You'll do what exactly?" "Send your voice-cloning technology to my house. Threaten a 72-year-old retired teacher in front of 2 police officers who are currently tracing this call." "Detective," Chen gave me a thumbs up and whispered, "Keep them talking. We're almost got their location. Here's what's going to happen." I continued in my best classroom management voice. "You're going to stay on this line until the authorities finish tracking you down. And while we wait, I'm going to tell you exactly what I think of people who prey on families." "You can't keep us on this line," the supervisor snarled. "Can't I? You've already invested 2 hours in this scam. You've brought in multiple people, created elaborate stories, and probably spent days researching my family. Are you really going to walk away from all that work? Especially when you think you're this close to getting $5,000? Was using their own greed against them, the same way I'd used kids' desire for recess against them when they misbehaved in class. And it worked. They stayed on the line, apparently believing they could still manipulate me into sending money, even as the walls closed in around them. "Besides," I added, "don't you want to know how I figured it out? Professional curiosity. I mean, your technology is impressive." The voice clone was nearly perfect. "Your psychological manipulation was sophisticated. You almost had me convinced. Don't you want to know where you went wrong?" By the time the police raided the call center in South Florida, they'd documented nearly an hour of attempted fraud, threats, and attempted elder abuse. 3 arrests were made that day, and the investigation led to a larger network of AI voice cloning scammers targeting seniors across the country. The FBI later told me my case was instrumental in securing convictions. The recordings I helped create were played in court, showing exactly how sophisticated and cruel these operations had become. The judge sentenced the ringleader to 5 years in federal prison, calling it a particularly heinous form of elder abuse that strikes at the heart of family bonds. Tyler flew home that weekend, not because he was in trouble, but because he wanted to hug his grandmother, who'd protected him, even when she thought he needed help. We spent hours talking about the experience, and he helped me understand more about how these voice cloning technologies work. The scary thing, Grandma Rose, he told me, is that they only needed a few minutes of audio from my social media posts to create that clone. Anyone could be vulnerable to this. He was right. The technology is advancing faster than our ability to protect ourselves from it. But here's what I learned. The human heart, real relationships, authentic family bonds, those things can't be cloned. But here's what really matters. They picked the wrong grandmother. I didn't stay scared. I didn't send money. I trusted my instincts, protected my family, and turned the tables on criminals who thought they could exploit an old woman's love for her grandson. Tyler and I laugh about it now. He's more careful about his social media presence, and we have a family code word for real emergencies. But mostly, we're proud that his Grandma Rose is apparently harder to fool than the criminals expected. The technology they used was impressive, but it couldn't replicate the most important thing: genuine family relationships built on trust, communication, and always putting family first. Since then, I've spoken at community centers and senior centers about these scams. I've helped 3 other families avoid similar attempts. And I always tell them the same thing: trust your gut, verify independently, and remember that real family members will understand if you need to double-check their identity. If you've faced something similar, or if this story helps you protect someone you love, share your experience below. Together we can make sure these scammers learn that our families aren't their payday, and that underestimating grandmothers is always a mistake.